But let's begin, shall we? Let's begin with Eddie Howe's Newcastle. That win, we mentioned Otan Dan did, 18 hours on a coach. That win for Newcastle against Dan's 5-1 over Brentford on the back of 4-1 against Fulham. They're now 6th in the Premier League. They've only lost 1 so far this season. Only conceded 9. That's the same as City and Brighton. They're the lowest 3 in the Premier League. They're looking great, aren't they? Now, at the beginning of the season, you, me, and quite a lot of Newcastle fans as well spoke about whether or not this side can get top 4, top 6, what's realistic now. When you look at where the current big sides are, the big sides I call Manchester United and Chelsea, etc., where they are in the Premier League, how they're playing.
Why would you start with United out of all them?
Because I'm talking about sides that aren't currently in the top 4.
Okay, cool.
Right? You, a couple of weeks ago, I asked you whether or not you thought Newcastle would get top 4. You said no.
Yep.
Have you
I still stand by that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Because they're not good enough, or other teams are better than them? Because from what I'm seeing, they're playing an absolute beautiful variety of football.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're playing well. Newcastle beat Fulham a couple of weeks ago 4-1. Fulham down to 10 men. Okay, it happens. Brentford gifted them a fair few goals. Okay, they've still done what they needed to do. I do think for Newcastle, if they can get in the top 6 back in Europe, I think that's massive for Newcastle Football Club.
Without a doubt.
I don't think they're getting top 4, and I'll stand by. I do not think they're getting top 4. But with what Eddie Howe's done, what he's built, the players that he's brought in, the players that are already there, the way he's transformed the whole kind of excitement around the football club. If Newcastle United, that St James's Park is rocking at the best of times, you get them back into the Europa League. I think it's got to be the aim now this season. That's a fantastic season for that football club. And then you go again, but you have to lay the foundations. You can't go all of a sudden escape relegation. And then the following, not escape relegation, but I know early parts of last season they did, but then they improved under Eddie Howe towards the end of the season. But you can't go from that to top 4. I just don't think the gap's too big, I think. But top 6, 100%.
What does he... One of the questions I asked in that was, is Eddie Howe an elite manager? I'm guessing the answer at the moment is no.
Of course it's no.
What does he need to do? Is it just about winning trophies?
Well, yeah, and he's got to be at the top level. Like, we have this argument and this debate about Pochettino, who people call him elite. I don't think he's an elite manager. But then you look at the likes of Conte, obviously the top Klopp and Guardiola, these guys are Mourinho. These are elite managers. Eddie Howe is a good coach right now, but you can't be putting him in the elite bracket yet.
But if you're an elite club, for argument's sake, Graham Potter isn't an elite club now, right? Mm-hmm. Does that make him
No, he's not an elite manager yet,
okay.
but if he goes and wins a major trophy at that club, Chelsea, i.e. the league or the Champions League, then of course he has to be elevated into that elite bracket.
Okay. Let's hear now from the Newcastle boss. This is Eddie Howe following his team's 5-1 win against Brentford. He was full of praise, of course, for one of, if not his top player, Bruno.
He was outstanding today. I've just been saying in another interview how we love him as a person, first and foremost. He's an incredible lad. Really, really positive, great energy about him, and what a player. I think everyone can see that on the pitch. Today he was very good, his use of the ball, and 2 great finishes from him.
He looks fantastic, doesn't he?
Do you know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of Ben Arthur. They always get these type of players.
Do you know what? That is bang on the money.
A little bit maverick, but I've got all the ability. But I think the only difference between him and Ben Arthur, I think, is that he will be a little bit more consistent. Whereas Ben Arthur maybe sometimes would go missing, but then when he's turned it on, he turned it on. They kind of remind me of the same person. But what Newcastle's done, as I said, and the recruitment, the players they brought in, what Eddie Howe's doing down there, he needs to be commended, and it's about Newcastle trying to get to that next level. But
Kieran Trippier looks fantastic, doesn't he?
Looks brilliant.
Why did what was he, 15, 18 million, something like that? And there was question marks about his age. No other club came in for him.
No.
I mean, his right peg is frightening, isn't it?
Frightening. Listen, they're a fantastic football club, and they've got some great players. But I still, look, you put Man City above them, Arsenal above them, Tottenham above them, Chelsea above them. Manchester United are going about it, so they could be ahead of them. So that's 5 already, and I've not even spoke about Liverpool.
Okay. Do you think they could, because obviously they can, but how important do you think cup runs will be to Eddie Howe this season?
Yeah, of course. I think Newcastle fans would like to see a cup run. I mean, when's the last time they got to a final? 98? When they got beat against Arsenal? I think that's probably I think it was...
Well, no, 99 we beat them in the treble season, didn't we? 2-0.
I'm pretty sure we beat them in the... Did we beat them in the final? We beat them in the final as well, 2-0.
Yeah.
So, it's been a while. And I think for Newcastle, I think that fans would love to see a cup run. And they've got a good squad there, Newcastle. Say Callum Wilson's out, they've got Isak to come in. If he goes out, Chris was there. So they've got a squad there now that they can compete on all fronts. So if you're a Newcastle fan, you're very, very optimistic about this season and excited about what's to come.
Okay, just quickly as well, so much I want to talk about with Eddie Howe, but if you're a Newcastle fan, knowing that England are going into a World Cup and on the back of it there's uncertainty about the manager, would you be worried about Eddie Howe stepping up?
No, I think Eddie Howe is at the start of his journey with Newcastle, so I think he'd want to achieve things first with his football club.
Do you?
Yeah, of course.
If England came knocking?
No, I don't think he will.
Okay.
I think he's happy where he is.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.